Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Ashley Hawkins. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Studio 23. For those of you who are new to the studio, we are a nonprofit community art space, and our mission is to empower artists to make art and make change. We've been around for 15 years, but we just bought this building in 2023 and moved in, and we've been really thrilled to see how this community event space brings folks together. It's really meaningful and important to us to have community events in this space. We had, 20,000 people in here last year for free community events, from square dancing to film screenings to organizing meetings to punk shows to artist markets. So it's a really well-used space, and we're so thrilled to be here with you tonight. We wish we were under better circumstances, but the power of community feels really strong in this room tonight, so thank you for being here. After we wrap up, if you want to take a look at our print shops downstairs, please feel free. You can check out what we do in real life. We're home to about 125 artists who all have 24/7 access to this space. So you may see them down there making artwork. So we're here tonight because, like many of you, we spent the last week and a half completely overwhelmed at the onslaught of executive orders, some of which are possible, and others that are symbolic and outlandish. We're being inundated with scary, alarming information, and this is by design. The shock and awe strategy is part of a playbook. It's intended to overwhelm, intimidate, and disempower us. In response to these executive orders, we decided to organize a series of community discussions centered on groups and rights that the Trump administration is actively attacking. Our LGBTQIA community, immigrant rights, abortion and reproductive rights, and climate justice. We hope these discussions will lead to a better understanding of the state of play on federal and state legislation, what threats are real, what power we have at the local level, what resources are available to us, and what we should be on the lookout for in the coming days, weeks, and months. We're still confirming participants for the rest of the dates, but we will have our immigrant rights community discussion on Wednesday, February 5th, our climate justice discussion on Monday, February 17th, and our abortion and reproductive rights discussion on Thursday, February 27th. You don't have to memorize those dates. We will send them out in social media and on our newsletter. So if you're attuned to those, we will share as we have more information. We hope you'll join us for those conversations and help spread the word. If there are topics that we haven't considered that feel urgent and important, please reach out to us and we'll do our best to organize around them. We're recording tonight's discussion so that we can share it with folks who couldn't be here in person. A huge thank you to our friends Joey and Aaron at Double Take for doing this for us tonight. We love y'all, we appreciate you. Thanks so much for making sure this can be shared as widely as possible. We also have a couple of trusted members of the press here this evening. You may have gotten the memo from Kate or I about the red stickers, but if you do not wish to be photographed, please put a red sticker on your name tag and we'll be sure not to capture your image. There are also index cards available up front and in the lobby. If there's a question you would like to ask but you do not want to do so on mic, you can write it down, and about midway through we're going to come through and pick them up for you and we will ask the question on mic for you. If you need a name tag, a sticker, or a pen, anybody feel a dramatic need for those things, raise your hand at the end and we'll run them out to you, okay? A couple of quick housekeeping items. The snacks and drinks are here for you, so please help yourselves. There's coloring supplies on the third floor for kiddos. I think they've already discovered them, but excellent, I got a thumbs up. 11:15 Mobile Kitchen is out front for those of you who need something more substantive than popcorn or pretzels. If you do have food, feel free to bring it in here and eat. We know we're kind of coming up on the dinner hour. Our restrooms are non-gendered and multi-stalled. They're located downstairs in the lobby, or right off of the lobby. You can take the elevator or the stairs down. And if you have any questions tonight, please reach out to a member of Studio 23 staff. So there's me, Kate's over here, KB, are you here? I heard them. They're waving. They're the person that you can't see waving on the mezzanine. And then Barry's in the back as well in the plaid. So if you have questions or need anything, please reach out to us. We also have some great local organizations tabling here tonight to share additional resources and support. So please visit them after the Q&A wraps. And now it is my true pleasure to introduce our wonderful facilitator, Parker Hayford. Parker is a queer artist and educator who performs, writes, teaches yoga, and facilitates community events and workshops in Richmond. His passion for local activism is informed by his advocacy work in Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, and Texas. Parker, take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Parker. Like Ashley said, I've lived in a lot of different states, and I am really happy to be here right now. So I know we have a lot to manage, but I just wanted to tell a little more about my story briefly, and then we'll move forward with the program. But something that I like to do when I'm getting overwhelmed is to, I told someone this before, arrive where I am. So just inviting in a moment of grounding, if whatever that means for you. Maybe you can look at the streamers through the windows, just take a moment to take a breath, notice where you're sitting, and I'm glad that we're sitting here. So I moved to Richmond about 3.5 years ago, and I was in a housing crisis and moved into another housing crisis. And since I've been here, I've had the most vibrant time of my life. I was 1 week on HRT before I got here and have had an amazing opportunity to continue my medical transition and build queer community and do creative work, and that is because of because of all of us. I never thought I could be in a place where I'm alive, to be honest. So I'm really happy to be here, even though it sucks. So that's my little spiel. Just off the cuff. Okay. So today, we'll do a Q&A after this presentation, and we have this amazing amount of support and expertise from all the groups who are here. You'll have a few opportunities of how you can ask questions, and we also did source questions like Ashley mentioned, so it'll be good. Okay, cool. So Narissa Rahman is an experienced advocate and campaign manager who currently serves as the executive director of Equality Virginia. She previously served as Associate Regional Campaign Director for the Human Rights Campaign, managing legislative and electoral efforts across southern states. Let's give a round of applause to Narissa. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Parker. I think I'm actually going to hold this. Thank you, Parker. Thank you, Studio 23, for hosting us, and for the other partners for joining today, and really for all of you all for showing up after what I know has been a very difficult 10 days. But it's really great to be in community tonight with you all, and I hope you are feeling the same, and I hope you leave feeling more connected to everyone in this room and everyone who is doing work on behalf of you around Virginia. And I hope you feel empowered in whatever way makes sense for you, whether that's to maybe practice a little bit more self-care or plug into the work. We're really glad to have you here. For those who aren't familiar with Equality Virginia, we are a statewide LGBTQIA+ advocacy organization, and we advocate and organize across Virginia to build a future where all LGBTQIA+ people can thrive. So just to ground us in this moment and why we're all here, I'm going to go through a number of slides today. I'll make sure that KB, Kate, and Ashley have these slides and they can share it out afterwards in any post-event emails, and you all are welcome to take photos of any of these slides if you'd like. All of this is public information and shouldn't really be new or surprising. We're not giving away any trade secrets here. So As expected, as I think what a lot of us anticipated post-election, the Trump administration has unleashed a lot of executive orders in the last 10 days. I believe I read something that said he has already signed more executive orders in the last 7 days than he did in the first 100 days of his first presidency and first term. I do want to, be mindful that we're operating in a very rapidly changing landscape, and that is intentional on their part. They want to overwhelm us. They want to punch us from every side. They want us to give us the least amount of time to process any of the news that we're getting before they hit us with the next thing. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or like your brain is melting or anything like that, all of your feelings are valid, and that's also their intent. They want to overwhelm us to the point where we are paralyzed and we don't want to listen to the news or process anything. And this is also intentional for the news cycle as well. They don't want the press to be able to keep up on reporting each thing so that we don't have the information that we have. And I recognize that a lot of you are scared and fearful from the news that has been released, whether it was the executive orders signed on the first day or the ones that came down this week. We're here to give you the most up-to-date information we have, and there's a lot of information that we just don't know yet. We are working, as fast as we can to gather information, both with our state partners, some of whom are here, and then our national partners as well. We are all in constant communication and are doing our absolute best to provide you all with accurate information, and that's the information we want to provide you with. We are not here to feed into any of the chaos that they are giving us. We want to make sure that you all are able to remain calm and process information and make the decisions that are best for you and your family. And while they continue to, throw relentless attacks at us, I really believe that our most effective tool is organizing here in Virginia and building power in community, and that's what we're doing here in this room tonight. But I will say we'll get through this together. It's going to be hard, but we're here to support you and the other organizations that are here too. Next slide. So just, a little 101 about executive orders. This is the fastest way for the president to message on a given issue or a topic of interest. These, as you all know, can be issued very quickly, but they often take a lot of time to implement and are a lot more complex when figuring out how exactly they're going to be implemented. There's a lot of information that we are trying to gather and communicate down to community about what the given action actually does and doesn't do, what it may be telling agencies to do, and all the processes they have to undertake, and what the next steps are, both for you all as community members and us as advocates. Nothing can, immediately change under executive orders such as regulations, and they can't change the law as established through statutes and the courts. As you all know, you may have seen from some executive orders that a lot of partners, national partners, have already filed litigation or lawsuits against those executive orders, and we expect that to continue happening. But we also, don't want to encourage you all to just immediately start obeying with whatever executive order has come down. Don't make those decisions out of fear to stop what you're doing and stop living. Keep moving forward and know that there are organizations around the country and here in Virginia working to get you the best information. So don't give more power to these executive orders than we need to give them. Next slide. So I'm going to go through what we've seen in some of the executive orders we've been most closely tracking that are impacting members of our community and our intersecting communities as well. So we've seen executive orders targeting immigrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. We're encouraging and urging folks to, who are in those communities, to seek legal resources and representation as you are able to. And there's a lot of organizations working to provide guidance specifically to those areas of policy. We've seen EOs target trans people held in federal custody, so specifically instructing agencies to deny gender-affirming care to those in federal custody and to house incarcerated people based on their sex assigned at birth. Again, we expect legal challenges around these as well. And then one of the first executive orders that we saw last Monday would impact those seeking gender marker changes of federal documents, so your passports and Social Security. We have seen the State Department signal that they are no longer going to process new applications or renewal applications for folks who require an X gender marker on their passports. And so, if you're here in your room or you know someone who has been wanting to update their password with an X gender marker, we encourage you or, make considerations about holding off on seeking any gender marker changes until there's clarity around the process. So again, with this one, there's really a lot of information that we still don't know. We are hearing that applications that were already started prior to inauguration may be put on hold, and we're also not fully sure what they are doing with the personal documents that you are sending to be processed. So a lot of considerations to make about if you're wanting to send over those personal documents to the passport agency to process, again, personal decisions for folks to make. And these are some things that may change soon. We saw executive orders on these, I believe, yesterday, but the administration did issue an EO stating that transgender people are not fit to serve in the military, and that access to facilities for sleeping, changing, or bathing is based on sex assigned at birth. Again, there's still a lot of directives for the Department of Defense to implement these changes and on a tight timeline, and we are tracking that closely. And then the EO that came down, that was signed and issued yesterday, touching on gender-affirming care for those 19 years and younger. Again, this came down yesterday afternoon, attempting to ban federal funding or support for youth gender-affirming care. And this EO is really threatening federal funding. So it is attempting to have medical institutions such as medical schools or hospitals that are providing gender-affirming care who are receiving federal funding to provide that care, to essentially make a decision whether you want to maintain your federal funding or do you want to provide gender-affirming care. And there's also next slide. Sorry, y'all. So this also directs the Department of Health and Human Services to publish a review of existing literature on the best practices of promoting gender-affirming care with children. And we all know almost every major medical association here in the United States supports gender-affirming care and advocates for it. It is it is best practice healthcare when treating any transgender person. And then, we expect some regulatory action on Medicare, Medicaid, both participation and coverage. So these are the most recent ones, and as you all know, we are keeping an eye, and when you get those push notifications on your phone, we get them too. So we're processing things and trying to provide accurate information as quickly as we get them. Next slide. So we'll talk a little bit about what has not changed with these executive orders that have been issued. It's important to remember that they are not law. They are instructions to federal agencies to take actions. So these federal agencies have to make rules or policies on how they are going to implement these executive orders. And while many things are rapidly evolving. I think it's important to know that we have always been here, we always will be here, and while policies can change, I know the folks in the room here are going to stay strong, and the organizations advocating for you two are going to remain strong. The laws that we have in Virginia remain law. We have robust and long-standing protections for our community fully effect here in Virginia. We are the only state in the South with comprehensive non-discrimination protections. We are the last state, the only state in the South that has not criminalized healthcare for trans people. And so I want you all to ground you in that those executive orders, do not impact the law that we have in Virginia. And yes, the last point, the gender-affirming care remains legal here in Virginia. So again, with the exception of people held in federal custody, none of the new EOs place immediate restrictions on care. And again, here in the state, gender-affirming care remains legal. Next slide. As it relates to federal documents and state processes, for those who hold current federal identification, so you may have updated your passports or other federal documents prior to inauguration or prior to the election, and you have received those documents. To our best understanding, all of those are still still valid. For those seeking changes to state-level documents, here in Virginia, you are able to update your driver's license with the next gender marker. You can amend the gender marker on your birth certificate. All of those other documents, those state documents in particular, are not impacted by the executive order. So if you're still seeking changes on your state documents, those processes still are in place for you to make those changes. And then rulings on workplace discrimination and marriage equality, those rulings remain unchanged here in Virginia. We'll get into this a little bit later, but here in Virginia, we have a defunct ban on same-sex marriage in our Constitution. It's not enforceable thanks to the 2015 Supreme Court decision, but if that Supreme Court decision were to be overturned, that ban would immediately go into effect. And so part of our work and our work with our partners is to ensure that we are removing that ban from the Constitution and replacing it with an affirmative right to marry. And that's a 2-year process. So there's a lot of things that we can do to add additional layers of protections against future actions. So what can we do? As I'm sure you all have seen, there have been legal challenges that have already been filed or in the works for many of these executive orders. And there's going to be a lot of things coming too that are required as part of these rulemaking processes once these agencies come out with their own directives and guidance, and that includes public comment. I think many of us here, all of us here in the room, will be able to engage in that way to make our voices heard on how these executive orders or the guidance from them would impact our day-to-day lives. And there will be advocacy opportunities too, ways that you can engage, not just at the federal level, but here in Virginia, to push back where harm is being done. But really, our posture at Equality Virginia since the inauguration has really been to make sure that not only are we seeking the most accurate sources for information, but that we are also providing the most accurate information for you all. And we will continue to seek out those sources and provide updated information when we have it. And we really encourage that too for any individuals who are here or representatives of the organization. There's a lot of stuff swirling around out there. There's a lot of rumors or secondhand information we're hearing specifically about folks using federal document or updating federal documents. And so we encourage you to share share firsthand things that you are hearing with organizations like us, but also just staying grounded in facts and providing support. That is the best thing that we can all do right now, is providing support to our friends, our families, and our neighbors as we all navigate this. So, as you see those rumors swirling around, oftentimes sharing can just add to the fear and chaos that we're already feeling. So the state of play in Virginia. We are in a legislative session right now. Our General Assembly is our legislative body here in the Commonwealth. That is comprised of a House of Delegates with 100 members and 40 state senators. And they meet every year in Richmond for a 45 or 60-day session, and this session is a 45-day session. The General Assembly creates, amends, and enacts state laws, and a lot of those laws impact our day-to-day lives here in Virginia. So on the next slide, there's kind of just a very pared down list of current law here in Virginia, that we are the only state in the South, again, with comprehensive non-discrimination protections. Gender-affirming care is legal. We have a law prohibiting health insurance discrimination based on your gender identity. And then again, we've removed a lot of barriers for folks who need to update their Virginia documents. So again, driver's licenses and birth certificates. We're a state that has banned the so-called practice of conversion therapy, and then done a number of work around hate crimes as well. And on the next slide, I spoke a little bit about marriage equality, and again, that 2015 Supreme Court case that made marriage equality the law of the land. Again, Virginia is one of 3 states that has a constitutional amendment banning marriage equality, and the process in Virginia is really a 2-year process to remove that from the Constitution. So if you go to the next slide, just a little bit, we've got 2 resolutions this year that are making their way through the Virginia legislature. That process has to be separated by a House election, and then we have to start that process all over again, complete the process in the General Assembly session next year. If we pass it both sessions, then you, the voters, in November of 2026 can decide if we can remove that ban from our Constitution. So this is really up to the voters to decide. There's also constitutional amendments to protect reproductive freedom here in Virginia, and then to restore voting rights as well. So there's a lot of work happening, at the state level and at the local level too, where we can really build power and reduce some of the harm that we're feeling. Laws and elections are not our only tool in reducing that harm, but they are a big tool that we can use. But this is not to say that anti-equality lawmakers have not tried to make our lives much harder. In the past 4 sessions, we have had bills that it would have banned health care for minors and adults, that would have excluded trans girls and trans women from playing on sports teams. They are trying their darndest to do what we are seeing, at the federal level. But also in those last 4 years, despite having, a Republican governor, despite our House of Delegates changing parties several times, we've been successful in defeating all of that legislation. So none of those bad things that you're hearing about, healthcare bans, et cetera, we are successfully stopping that here in Virginia, and that's thanks to you all. When you call your senators, when you call your delegates, we are making progress, or at least preventing us from rolling the clock back. Federally, we have seen several weeks ago, the House of Representatives in Congress did pass a bill that would ban trans athletes. And so that bill did pass and is in the U.S. Senate now, but there is a path in the Senate to stop these bills from making it to the president's desk. So at our table over there, we do have actions that you can take to email Senator Kaine and Warner. So on the next slide is just some, I know we're all thinking about how we can take care of ourselves and each other, not just from the last 10 days, but also, the next, for the foreseeable future, the next few years. If you are a member of an organization or you are the executive director of an organization, really take time in the coming days to check in with your people, check in with the folks that you employ, the clients you serve, the partners you work with. Like, we're all impacted folks doing this work, or you are just an impacted community member who still has to go to work and try to get through your day. So, for those leaders out here in the audience, or if you're watching this video later, check in with your folks and see how they're doing, and consider what resources you have and what influence your organization can have in supporting community here in Virginia. And then we want to see businesses and corporate partners stand strong in their commitments. The folks who stand with us, who sponsor our work or provide us with funding. We don't want them to buckle to political pressure. Now is not the time to back down from commitments to supporting our diverse communities. And so, again, if you're here as an organization or a business leader, don't back down from those commitments that you've made and that investment you've made in building up community in Virginia. Those partnerships and those promises that you've made count now more than ever. And then for individuals, just some recommendations that we have. We encourage you to review your legal documents and your directives, regardless of what your gender identity might be or any status. Really take time to sit down and review your documents and make decisions on whether it's the right time to update them. Here as Equality Virginia, we can't make personal decisions for you, but we encourage you to just take time, sit down with yourself, your spouse, your family, and really make the decisions that are going to help you feel the most safe as you're navigating, whether it's our Commonwealth or if you're traveling around the country. What is going to make you feel the most safe, and what resources do you need to make those decisions? Follow along with organizations, folks like Equality of Virginia, ACLU, He, She, Ze, and We, Side by Side Health Brigade, Studio 23, all of those folks. Follow us, sign up for our email list, stay engaged. We're here to provide accurate, up-to-date information for you, but we also understand that a lot of us have a lot of energy right now, and we want to plug in, and there are a lot of organizations who will have not just resources, but opportunities for you to plug in the days and weeks ahead. But then also be an advocate in your circle. I think we all are here because we have a shared set of values. We care about each other, we care about our community. We understand that when our community is safe, we make a better Virginia. And stand up for those values as publicly as you can. Advocate for your friends, advocate for yourself and your family, advocate for others. If none of these executive orders impact you, those are the voices we need right now, because our communities are not safe when one member of our community feels othered. And then if you can, support the work. We are all nonprofits here, and so if you can donate, volunteer time. There will be upcoming volunteer opportunities. There will be calls to action, things you can engage in, direct action, volunteer opportunities to speak to your lawmakers or letter write. Figure out how you want to be a part of the work, and make that commitment to yourself. And make that commitment to organizations. We're going to need all hands on deck, and I think we all have different tools and skills and expertise that can support the work, and I think everyone here in this room has a place in the work ahead, and it's really up to you to figure out what that place is for you. But all of you are powerful parts of this movement that we have here in Virginia, and especially here in Richmond. I know that was a quick run through of very heavy stuff, I know we're going to have partners coming up here soon. I know a lot of you probably still have a lot of questions, and that is fine. We are all going to continue having questions. And I do want to say that you might hear us at times say, we don't know yet. And it is not that we are withholding information. It's not that we're keeping anything from you. Partly it's, again, because we want to give you accurate information, and two, we also just don't know. And that's really hard when we're trying to figure out how we want to navigate our personal lives.